and we are live. It's Friday night, and we have a very, very interesting and kind guest tonight with us, Michael Forrest. And he has the humongous account, Aliencarvings, on Instagram, YouTube, and you have your own website, aliencarvings.com.
Yep.
I'm Kimberly. This is Shannon. We're super excited to have this conversation with you today, and we're going to have Michael take over and introduce himself.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm Michael Forrest, and I run aliencarvings.com. I started in this whole alien business as an extreme skeptic. I saw these carvings come across my table and shook my head at it and made a wager with a friend that's now turned into a 7-year investigation that has led me to places and seeing things that I had no possible hair in my body that I thought it actually existed. So to have this full circle, it's been a really interesting experience. And we've been basically just trying to prove to ourselves or to understand if these pieces were actually genuine. And that took years of effort. We went through a lot of different labs and different people that had, seemed like they were really the experts of this topic, and to find out that there was really no one talking about this, and there was no real websites, and there was no collective database of all these images and these pieces being offered. I mean, even if they were fake, you would think that there would be somebody talking about it somewhere. And 7 years ago, it was bleak. I think there was one published book on the market at the time, maybe two. Now there's, I
Wow.
think, 40 books or something like that. It's blown up, and so 7 years, this has really taken root.
Including your 7 books. You had 7, right?
Seven, yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. To be a
That's a
published
lot of books.
author.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Then so you're proud of the foundational thoughts on this topic then.
Yeah, yeah, we've got a lot of research done. We've done a lot of carbon dating and research with electron microscopes to understand the material science. One of the scientists I was working with, Trevor Hawk, he actually published a paper on this topic. It's like 67 pages
Yeah.
of deep, deep science that goes into the material science, showing just how crazy these things are and
Mhm.
what it would actually take to produce them and the age ranges coming from them. Really fit in. That's a lot of times people bring this to my attention because there's Egyptian deities and that
Mhm.
sort of stuff that are found on these pieces coming out of Mexico. And when
Yes.
I first saw that, I couldn't understand this. And everybody always asks, like, what's the connection between Egypt and Mexico? And the biggest thing I think that we're starting to see is this pyramid era, where when they built these pyramids on the earth, there seems to be a connection to this story of this topic with these beings or these deities. And if you look at what the Spanish went to go after, was this pagan belief, and you start digging deep into the, Phoenicians and different, things that believed in these gods and made sacrifices to, and all of this, the story starts coming together really heavily. I mean, you look at the very
Mhm.
first pyramid in Egypt, and it's a stepped pyramid,
Mhm.
and you look at the pyramids all over Mexico, and what are they? They're stepped pyramids, and I think that's
Mhm.
really an important thing that nobody can really deny, that there is a connection here, and that the fact that King Pakal was found in his pyramid tomb with a death mask on and in a sarcophagi. Um, that to me is really important as well, because it's like seeing these type of connections, even though maybe their gods look different or the names were different, the stories here in these cultures, it definitely seems rooted in one of the same.
One of
Huh.
the interesting things for me, and I wonder if you have any insight on this, is you do see Egyptian deities, and I think I was surprised in the things that I've watched. I see Anubis as being super common in that. And like personally, I would have expected some other deities like sort of ahead of him. But have you learned any insights about why Anubis specifically?
Yeah, and you're totally right. Anubis is everywhere on these pieces. Definitely the most common deity. and he's often working with Thoth, and he's often working with the Anunnaki bearded beings.
Mm-hmm.
And but what's interesting with Anubis, and you look at the Dogon people and the people that claim to be from the second star of Sirius,
Mhm.
and what they have with the dog, and how they were exiled out of Egypt. And then you start looking at the excuse me, the comparatives over in like in Greece, in the ancient Greek rather, and Hades is the alternative name for Anubis.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this world of the underworld, right? And the underworld seems to be a very focused place in these ancient cultures, whether it be from, Mexico, which is Tula is one of the places we're finding these, which has the
Mhm.
pyramid of Quetzalcoatl. It's got these guardian statues called Atlantean guardians, and so I think there's a connection with Anubis and Saturn. And I believe that there might be a connection that he might be the one that could be the ruler of this, or an
Mm-hmm.
incarnation of some sort of authoritative figure, I think is the best way to put it, because there's we've come to a conclusion that there's a likelihood that these gray aliens that are depicted on these pieces are actually the Ajiji, or a Nephilim species that was created pre-flood. And so
Mhm.
Anubis is actually shown choking those beings out, holding them by the neck, I should say. Which I felt that's out of all these pieces. I mean, these are all very they seem like sacred offerings to these gods. They seem to be very
Mm.
promoting of divinity and that sort of stuff, kingship and devout following. But as far as violence goes, I hadn't seen it at all. And so seeing Anubis in this position of power, I think stood out to me really, really heavily. And he's also working with the Sophia in many depictions. There's a lot of depictions with him with Saturn, the planet itself, and so there seems to be a connection of some form, I guess.
Pluto just shifted into Aquarius, and Pluto rules the underworld. Um, maybe we'll get a lot. Maybe that's why all these artifacts are actually being coming to the forefront right now. Shannon, your piece has Anubis
It
um,
does.
choking somebody out, doesn't it? Yeah.
No, that was the
Oh, the
compass
other
had
one.
like the violent scene on it.
Yeah,
But I have an
Oh,
Anubis on the piece that I have,
with a mermaid, with a hybrid mermaid alien.
a
Yeah,
hybrid mermaid.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about those? Do you have thoughts on the considering that these are being dug up nowhere near the ocean, but there's an aquatic theme on a lot of them?
A
Do you
Yeah.
lot
have
of
any ideas?
cephalopods.
Yeah.
I think it could very well be like there's the Apakalu, which are the bird beings that were part of the Anunnaki historical record and whatnot. They were depicted that way. There's also these fish type suit beings that are depicted. And I think those fish suit beings could be, I think one is called the Awana. And actually just shared a story about it today that kind of talks about that. And it's it's really probable that the Atlantis story is real. Plato probably wasn't fooling us
Mhm.
just this one time. Just everything else seems to hold up pretty strong to record at least. And I think he's probably not incorrect. And this is probably that culture that existed that had to be flooded, or that there was a catastrophic ending to. A lot of these pieces seem to be deliberately buried. They're closer to the surface, but then you get down to that 10 to 20 foot level or even deeper, and that's where we're finding petroglyphs and cave systems and more type of stone infrastructure than we would at the higher levels. And so we think that this area was kept very sacred, and that these are the sacred mountains essentially. In Tula it's Zikuku, which is the hill of the owl, and in Huelos de Lisco it's the hill of the bull, or El Toro. And so these are both things that can go back to sacrifice and Moloch worship, symbols of the watchers, Inanna, Ishtar. The fallen feminine seems to pop up more often than not with this type of stuff. After reading the Pistis Sophia, like all of a sudden my mind just went. I mean, it
Mhm.
was a major aha to these pieces and what they meant fundamentally, and the potential history that's been lost in that 2,000 year period.
Well, with I don't know if this is accurate or not, but with the underground labyrinths supposedly in Greece, on some of the islands in Greece during the Atlantean
Crete.
times in
Yeah.
Crete. Okay, with
Yeah.
the red, black, and white decor and paintings and things underneath. I wonder if there's any correlation to the um, well, how you just mentioned that there's a tribute to a bull, the mountain. What did you say?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, and think about that too. In Spain and Mexico, they all have this bull ritual where they
Yeah,
dance with
yeah,
the bull, and the Vikings, the barbarians, all wore horned helmets and things of that
yeah.
nature. And you go to Egypt and Hathor; she was the cow, and the amount of sacred cow rituals and mummifications that they would do over there. It's absolutely there was something to that, and um,
Hmm. Well, the
we
cow's
see.
sacred in India. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's an
Huh.
interesting thing too. We see a lot of parallels with the Hindu religion, the ancient
Yeah.
Hindu texts of Vimanas, and they had trunked beings and that sort of thing as well. And we find that a lot. And in that trunked, I'm trying to see if I have one on the table here that I can show you. Maybe the alien grays have this trunk that comes down that's often, it looks like it's wrapped in like bandage or linen or something of that nature, and sometimes they're not wrapped and they're more like tentacles. But what's interesting
Yeah.
is when they wrap these tentacles together, it makes this thing, and some of these beings look like they have the same exact beard as the pharaoh, and that pharaoh has to strap that on,
Mm-hmm.
even at a 15 years old, to give honor and worship to the creators in Chem. And so we already know that there's something more ancient than ancient Egypt, and that this place
Oh
called
yeah.
Chem existed, where these beings that had this trunk or this beard were revered to this level. And so
Yeah.
even the pharaohs, which were incarnations of gods, and so that would bring a lot of connection to why they thought that. They very well could be. Nephilims could be indeed the creations of the Son of God. And that might be why the Pharaoh and certain lineages took that concept into reality.
Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned one of my favorite rabbit holes was the Dogon tribe in Africa.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking back to my question where I asked you before about the amphibious type symbolism and how the Dogon tribe spoke of the fish people that landed in the ocean and walked out
The
and they were
Nomo.
hybrids.
Yes.
The Nomo,
Yep.
yeah. So, man, it see this how can people actually think that none of this is connected?
There's so much there. It's
Yeah,
hard, but
I love it.
it's distorted in just the right ways. We think of these beings as aliens. That's what we've been bred. That's what Hollywood has come up
Mhm,
with. That's what multiple
mhm,
directors have used the same alien face
mhm,
for their productions. It's kind of
mhm.
weird. That's the emoji that we ended up with on our cell phones. It's
Yeah,
and then all of a
and
sudden
I
that's what we're finding coming out of the ground. Yeah, there's something there, and we're attracted to that imagery. And I think that's the movies that have used this imagery, the Nazca mummies and ET and certain things
mhm,
like that, seem to be more popular than not.
mhm.
They seem to succeed because of this, and maybe we're inherently knowing our history, or our ancestors are somewhat still a part of us, and we can see that. There is truth to that fantasy.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at,
Hmm.
it's a sky stone from Sierra Leone, from the Dogon
Oh,
tribe.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Oh my
usually have it in my
gosh.
safe, but I've been moving, so I have it in this drawer and figured I'd show
So
it.
that's a sky stone from Sierra Leone from the Dogon tribe.
Yeah. Yeah, they found them back in, I can't remember the dates, but they were heavily researched, and they're very bizarre. It's high carbon and oxygen, and
Ooh,
it's not like any other stone. GIA has looked at it, and universities, so it's very lightweight. And the rumor is that there was a spaceship in the sky and it blew up, and that the things that came down or something like that was
yeah.
this stone.
Did you have you heard about how niacin they believe niacin is from the stars?
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, I saw a recent article with meteors carrying the building
Yes.
blocks of life, and yeah, the amino
Yeah.
acids and niacin is
Yeah.
huge for that. Makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing that you got a stone from there because They
No.
that's not a tribe that interacts with the public very often.
No, and the guy that gave it to me was a gemologist, and he had done work
Oh,
on this,
good
and he
friend.
ended up finding the stones and doing a lot of testing and stuff for us, and so that was a
Yeah.
gift to me that he gave me, and
Yes.
it's
Like,
one of my treasures at this point because there's very few of them. I mean, they went for sale one time back like 10 years ago, and I've never seen one on
wow.
eBay or on the market come up since then.
That's like, what a find. I'm a huge
Yeah,
tektite and meteorite person, but that's like that's a whole nother level. Like, wow, respect.
yeah, totally.
That's cool. Shannon, do you want to ask anything? Sorry, I'm just having a
No, one
one-to-one
of the things I
conversation.
wanted to ask you, what is your favorite piece that you own or that you've ever encountered?
So this
Easy.
question comes up so often, and it's the hardest question, and it was always the hardest question. And then I started to realize maybe why. So I'll explain why I can't answer that. And I think that we're dualistic people, and choosing sides is very polar, which goes
Mhm.
against what we're fundamentally created to be. And so choosing a favorite here only limits the other potential possibilities of being, at that level. And truth is, some of these creations of art are people's livelihoods that they invested into these tributes potentially. And the as an appreciation of art, there's no way. I mean, there's pieces that blow my mind every day. Just it's crazy, some it's
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I can't say. I mean, some of the pieces that we've seen though, some of these tablets and boxes and the crystal skulls especially. I mean, I got this one right here on the table I can show you. I mean, it's really stunning. It's, this being, but it's a complete geode that they
Wow.
carved into this. And some of that type of stuff, the amount
Yeah.
of ability to get the
That's not
specimens
what I
dialed
wanted.
in, the mosaic pieces, and
Mm-hmm.
the ability to carve on top of this type of work is just a blasphemy. Like, because
Yeah.
if you think about it, you mess up on that specimen, there's no fixing it, there's no erase button, there's no undo. Like, you're now stuck with this mess up on the specimen. So, to get to
Mm,
that level, to carve that geo the first time right comfortably
mhm.
is, I mean, not to crack, it's calcite. I mean, this is not a hard stone whatsoever. So to not have that chip or break in that process to shape that skull is, they're masters. There's no question. They had
Oh yeah.
not technology necessarily, but they had a way of working stone that we are, that most of us at least are oblivious to. There's always been the stonemasons having this ability with stone, and I think they've carried some of this logic from the Stone Age probably with them to to do what they've done. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
they kept it a secret was always a question to me. Like, why is it just because it's worth a lot of money? And look at Roman concrete and some of these ancient concretes, and I mean, these are clearly better than the ones we use today. So why are we being so secretive over a recipe for stone? And
Yeah.
unless there's something to it that's really maybe darker. And so as we've started to do studies, one of the things that we're researching now is there's this type of stone like this, and see the orangey brownish color with it.
Mhm.
That, if I was to break this in half, the inside would be like white, and it's a
Mm,
crystalline substance. They told me it was limestone when Serum Laboratories did the first testing on this. However, when Trevor Hawk started to do his paper and we started to look at these things under the scanning electron microscope, the obvious nature of it being manufactured became something we couldn't unsee anymore. And so this material is manufactured. And so that orange color is actually the iron oxide inside of it that's rusted over time. And so the iron oxide, we've got some preliminary tests that show that there are peptides that it could be from blood, whether it be from animals or humans or whatever. But we do know in the story of the Tower of Babel that there was idols being made to worship gods that were part of the
mhm.
reason why God flooded the earth, and that these idols were stone idols. And this might be where blood idol, the term came from. They might have been utilizing the sacrifice blood to create this material to make these idols have. more power. There's all these people like Jeffrey Epstein and that sort of stuff that are doing these weird rituals and Kabbalah. You hear about all these things where people are doing these things for power, and you have to wonder if these objects aren't imbued with that type of energy or that type of power because of the way that they were made with alchemy. And that might be why they have interesting electromagnetic frequency. The EMF meter, tri-field meter, just goes off the charts with these things. And so when I was studying this weird thing, because I'm not an expert with EMF, I have no idea what this means, but I found this article regarding the Egyptian artifacts and how there was teams of people that worked at the museum that would often get weird and sick and headaches and weird feelings, and they wouldn't be able to be close to those artifacts. As soon as they would walk away, it would go away. And so there is a possibility that this type of nature exists within these stone objects.
It's like when the people that were in charge of watching the arcs were getting they died young, I believe.
Yeah, almost
And
like
it
radiation.
yeah.
Yeah,
Huh. Wow. Huh, so
yeah,
cool. So
yeah,
have you worked directly with Trevor Hawk on a few projects
yeah.
or
I was down
okay.
in the lab with him last. It was last September, I think it was, in San Diego, and humidity
Yeah.
was not 100% then. It was amazing, and I
Duh.
loved it. But no, it was my first time I ever been down there, and we had a really great time. I got to research about 10 or 15 of my pieces, and we found a lot of really interesting things. That there was different types of oxidation and copper and that sort of stuff in some of these pieces, odd materials that definitely it doesn't make it seem like it was made by the earth, which supported the claims that it was a geopolymer for sure.
Huh. Okay. Man, I have like 1,000 questions on my head right now for you. Um, Shannon, do you have do we have any questions in the chat? Oh, somebody
Well,
asked if you would hold up the sky stone again. I got that
Oh
part.
yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Okay.
yeah.
Oh wow. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, really unique
Okay.
piece for sure. I was a rock collector before I did any of this. That's how I kind of came into being a skeptic, is I knew carvings fairly well. And I'd never seen anything like this when my buddy brought it by, and he knew I was going to come to that conclusion, of course. And, when he told me that these things were 10,000 years old, it just seems so ridiculous. I just wanted to know who was making them, and honestly give them props, because the more I dug in, the more I saw technique and talent that was. I mean, I wasn't finding that in the mass produced market anywhere ever. I went to
Mhm.
hundreds of gem shows as a kid and throughout my days, and I'd never seen anything like that before. So if this was all of a sudden some new trend, why isn't it at the gem shows, and why isn't it just all over? Why is it so encapsulated to these small little towns in Mexico? Why isn't
Mhm.
other places making it at this point? Why hasn't China knocked it off yet? And what's crazy about the China knockoff thing is, as I started researching into China, they have a culture over there called the Hong Shen culture. When you look at that on eBay, you'll find all these different carvings. A lot of them are made of jade and different rocks that um, really, I had to buy some of them, and I really started to question them. Well, recently I was reading I think it was a post by Trevor Garcia that said that no, actually, I take that back. Let me rephrase that. It was the Aslan Stone Project during their presentation in Parma, Italy. A couple few weeks ago, there was a group of PhDs that brought forward the evidence from Mexico. They have over 400 lab tests and have gone to really deep extents. They sent a PhD team down there with Vanessa Meligari, the anthropologist, and so yeah, he claimed that this Hong Shen culture, that there's real pieces here, and it's connected to the culture in Mexico as well. And so it's interesting to see these countries just passing these things off as fakes to get rid of the truth, um, or to at least delay dealing with it, which is kind of what it maybe seems like. I don't know. It's very bizarre that it has remained a secret and remains at such a very gr- just, I don't know, a transparent mode, I guess.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, Shannon. What were you gonna ask?
Oh no, I was gonna say As far as locations where you've been, which one gave you sort of a large impact, or what are some of your
Mhm.
emotional, spiritual amazement experiences you've had, like by location? Because you can
Yeah.
feel the energy of a place, and I imagine you've seen some amazing places.
I've never been down to Mexico.
Mm.
Really?
So yeah, I've never been down there. I've done all this research. My good friend that I made the wager against spent months down there last summer. He's the one that did a lot of the photography and has a whole
Mm-hmm.
section in my new book that went down to verify those. I was initially invited to go down with Gen 6 Productions, and then my wife got pregnant. And by the time that he was old enough that I felt good to leave, it was to the point where I'd sent so much money to Mexico and found out that this was real and
Mhm.
that this was not aliens and that this was demonic possibly. And there's a, with demons comes the divine. So it's a very heartwarming experience for me because I had doubt in religion and doubt in formulated biblical spirituality for my whole life. I doubted it hard, and this made me a firm believer that Jesus saved our species, and or someone saved our species. I shouldn't say
Mhm.
names matter at this point, but our species was saved, and we inherit this earth. And there's enough evidence to me at this point that I can believe that with my whole heart. And so the
Mhm.
faith that has garnished from this in terms of God and our purpose here and the importance of this truth, if these are remnants of the fallen ages and that this shows that this actually happened, and that we find these skulls with the chip in the forehead. And so there's also depictions with the Sophia, with this multi-armed being that's actually on gems and coins from the second century AD, depicting the Sophia from Gnostic stuff. And we know that the Gnostics were completely gutted. We know that South America and Central America were gutted by the Spanish. We know that they went after pagan stuff. This is a fact. It's in all the history books. What
Mhm.
was it? Well, this is that pagan stuff. This is what they went after. They didn't get it all. And this stuff was deliberately buried probably before the Spanish got there so they could try to preserve it or hide it, because they were afraid that what was going to happen again was that we were going to get the chips in our forehead and we would be back under that Saturn control of the mark of the beast. The beast is the Sophia, the Leviathan, Tiamat, Typhon, or whatever you want to call this lady. She's been trapped in reincarnation for centuries, millennia,
Mhm.
and has repeatedly came back up as the one who gives the virgin birth. She is the virgin birther, and all of her names are the different incarnations of her, likely. From what I see on these pieces and what the research shows, Nag Hammadi scriptures and that sort of stuff, that's a highly probable suspect to what we're found.
Wow. Like every little part that we cover could be its own episode.
Yeah, it's so much to
That's so
it's been
cool.
uh, it's been insane. The book that I think helped me the most in this processing, there was an archaeologist that had worked in Saudi Arabia. She was from Hawaii, and she said Hawaii is full of this type of stuff and that they don't talk about it because that was part of the agreement of them becoming a state. And that there was constant, same with the reservations and keeping all these sacred areas.
Mhm.
The reservations, I don't think were a gift from America. I think that they were the sacred areas with so much stuff that they're like, well, we'll put you in charge of it, but if any of this comes out, you're going to be responsible. So that's why there's no digging. That's why you have to be taken by a Native American guide most times to even go
Mhm.
experience this land, because what's shown and what is unearthed, I think, could absolutely radically change what we've been led to believe. And that seems to be like they're trying to cover up the fact that this all happened so we can get that chip back. We can unknowingly
Mhm.
take this and become controlled again.
Mhm.
Even though we were saved, like we have the opportunity to ascend and become masters, but we chose material possession to get the chip that made our bodies faster for a couple years, and in terms, you know, potentially became an endless cycle of infinite soul trap, right?
Yeah. Huh. So what do you think, and now that you've experienced all this and you've collected all these items and you've exposed yourself and I'm sure been energetically or through viewing, like, you've received some type of, like, downloads or uploads or something, right? To and um, with all of that, and then all your research and writing your books, what do you why do you think that we are still waiting on disclosure? And when I say disclosure, I don't mean just spaceships. I mean, like, I think it was I'm sorry, I know there was a question in there, but I was watching one of your videos, and I believe I really like something that you said. It's not you said it's interdimensional. It's not right, or
Yeah.
something like that. You tell me
We
your what you said.
we I mean, the reality is like trying to think how to word this, but I think we absolutely, if we knew, okay, so in the Pistis Sophia, this book that I mentioned, which is the
Yeah.
faith and the wisdom, right? And so wisdom is the Sophia, that's what it translates to. And if she really is the wisdom, and her purpose in her thought creation, because in the Gnostic text, the Sophia was a thought of the divine light. So the ineffable God created her by thinking her into existence. And so
Okay.
then she was a thought of wisdom. Her primary focus was wisdom. Well, if you look at everything that we have here, how do you gain wisdom? And everything in our lives seems to be directing us towards gaining wisdom. We are to learn, no matter whether we are incarcerated, in put in an asylum, we are still going to
Mhm.
learn one way or another, whether it be, counting the specks on a wall, or quantum physics. It doesn't matter, but we
Mhm.
are still there to gain a wisdom from these experiences. And I think that reflects her mission. And so, there's the fall of the fallen angels and all of this talk of Lucifer's rebellion and the opposition. And in the Pistis Sophia, it talks about the great mystery. And so the great mystery, I asked the scholar J.J. Hertok, Dr.
Mhm.
J.J. Hertok,
Mhm.
what the great mystery was. And the answer here is really something that I didn't get an answer that I could fully understand it. It
Yeah.
was a complex
Like it's
answer.
books. Yeah, they're books. Yeah.
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 but
Brilliant,
but
but
it,
yeah.
it stuck it stuck with me. And I think that the mystery, if we were to know God was real today, would we take it for granted? And we would. We are designed to.
Mhm.
That might be why Jesus was killed. Like, we are designed to take things for granted. And I think that if that could be why it seems like there's two sides of disclosure. There's the good side and the bad side, and both sides are holding the truth from us. They both are afraid of us getting the truth. And whether it be Burchett and the congressmen who are pushing forward on these things, or whether it be the ancient aliens people who seem to try to push people in the wrong direction in some cases.
Mhm.
And maybe there's a good reason for that. And that could be that without the mystery, we're going to stop learning at the rate that we're learning right now. And the suffering and the pain that
Mm.
we are experiencing are what's going to give us that push to get across the finish line. And our time
Mhm.
might be very limited. And so these delicate balances of good and evil could be, actually being held at the highest respects right now by both sides,
Mhm. That's an
because it
excellent
requires both
point.
sides,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent point. You know, with everything that you just said, I like how whereas a lot of times people think that this area of study is separating you from your belief in God or good,
Yeah.
and everyone I talk to on this journey, it's led them to a much more firm, beautiful belief of
Yeah.
what's beyond and that a greater power. And yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
That's the irony. It truly is. And it's like, um, there is that dualistic nature that we have to abide by and respect, that
Hmm.
for all things, an action requires an equal or opposite one. And
Hmm.
to try to take the shortcut or to avoid that, I think might be where we cut ourselves short. And that might be why the chip in the forehead is so frowned upon, in this type of, it might not just be metaphorical, but taking the shortcut, even just with AI. I catch myself doing this often. There's
Hmm.
so many things that AI can do better than I can do, or at least better than I appreciate. Making a thumbnail, for instance, like I'll go in there and spend a half hour making this thumbnail or whatever in Canva, and it'll come out looking okay. It's kind of cheesy, whatever, right? And then I have AI do it, and it's like, wow, I actually kind of like this. And so that type of shortcut mentality, I fear it in a lot of ways, because that
Mhm.
could be what sucks us into this. Um, Getting the upgrade and falling trapped to the material possession. And you look at what companies and the people who are involved with all of these data centers and all of these tech companies, and how it reverts back to one specific place that seems to be pushing this type of corruption. It's very something that I proceed with caution with at this point. It's scary.
You yeah, you and many others. Yeah. Okay, Shannon, I have been, on the forefront here. Shannon is brilliant and has great questions, and I wanna make sure that you have equal
No,
Of
I'm
course.
just totally fascinated by everything you've seen.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm so curious about is what's some lore about all of the cephalopods? There's so many sea creatures, but like specifically, you'll see octopus, hydra, and it sort of seems to stick out. And then there are fish people, and there are other, seahorses, different things like that. But the octopus piece just keeps coming up over and over.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I'll hold this up because like it's got one of these sea creatures on there, or a serpent looking being. And I think it's really important to understand that if Atlantis was real, and you look at our lore of that with Poseidon and the whole stories in the sea of all this type of stuff. I mean, we haven't found it, but the most unexplored area is the water. And
Yeah.
you have different
Mhm.
accounts with Dagon, you have the Dogon people with the Nomo, you have all of
Mm-hmm.
these sea people all over the place being talked about. We have the
Mhm.
ancient Aslan story with the Aztec, where they had this Atlantis type place as well. So I think that the sea might have been a place where the experiments started, and they started out with limited things. They started out in the sea because it was a more controlled environment. And they because we find octopus, we find weird looking Cthulhu looking beings, but we also find seahorses and stuff like that. And so there's a real high probability that that type of stuff we might have I don't want to say necessarily that we evolved from the sea, but there is a lot of talk of us emerging from the waters, even biblically.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Have you heard any mention of, the temples in Egypt in ancient times when there'd be a location in the temple that allowed, like, dolphins and whales to come up from through water into the temples? Have you heard about that?
No,
Yeah,
interesting.
I wouldn't I guess just literally typing that in and asking ChatGPT, but I've heard a few different people mention that, and the first
Hmm.
time I heard that, as fantasy as it sounds, that was like that just sounded so real and so well, considering that their intelligence is incredibly high, like, of course, we would be
Mm-hmm.
communicating with other extremely intelligent beings,
Right.
but man, I wish I could get more information on that. Like so much of what
Mm.
we are fascinated on, even though you can hold these objects, to actually get the story, the truth and the story is almost impossible, and that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah,
But all
100%.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm addicted. That's what started my whole website and books and Instagram.
Mhm,
I just I started seeing people I may know holding these objects down in Mexico, and they started sending me pictures of what they had, and then and I just had all these pictures, and what am I going to do with this? People need to see this. So it's definitely a snowball effect. But I think the intelligence thing that you hit on there with the sea life is really important. And when you look at these beings, they absolutely look semi-aquatic in many cases,
mhm,
or amphibious at the minimum. And we
mhm,
find scales, we find gills, we find little fins on the side of the heads, and
mhm,
everything you would see in every sci-fi possible. It seems like it blows me away. There's things that look like the Cthulhu, or not but the xenomorph off of Alien, all these different species. But one thing's very consistent in that this elongated head, it seemed to be utilized a lot. And
Mhm.
then we go to ancient native practices, which most of the elongated heads that have been found have been written off as waterboarding. Brian Forster and some other
Mhm.
scientists have come
Yeah.
forward with information that I think argues that pretty clearly. But
Love it.
on the
Yeah.
mainstream science level, most of them are for this water or this cranial binding process.
Mhm.
And so cranial binding was done for a reason. People weren't trying to get an elongated head for nothing. So this
Right.
communication with sea life, with the gods, with other types of spirituality, that might have been what the Ajiji had the capability to do. And the Anunnaki had this slave species that built their roads and did their hard tasks, called the Ajiji. And eventually that species rebelled against the Anunnaki. And how they rebelled, it doesn't really say. It doesn't
Mhm.
say if they were ever killed off, but it does say that they were replaced. And so these beings might have been so spiritually advanced that they could have maybe gotten out of this dimension. They could be on the run. They might be the ones in the UFOs doing cattle abductions and manipulation to the DNA of humans by abduction,
Mhm.
to thwart the Anunnaki. They still might be in this battle against them today, even though they were replaced. And we might be, well, our predecessor, which is what the Anunnaki called the Adamu, which was what
Mhm.
the divine feminine spent like 750 years creating and refining. That species, I think, is what was saved to create Adam.
Mhm. Okay. Huge fan of Brian Forster. I'm glad you brought him up. I've
Yeah.
watched all his shaky footage going throughout Peru, and I would it would be
Shaky.
such an honor to me. Well, come on.
Get this man a gimbal. No,
Yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
because he goes into amazing places, and he's so full of knowledge, and he one of the things I respect so much about him and so many other researchers is that they're open to discussion. They are going there to say prove these ideas that I've already kind of come I've learned all this. I'm excited to learn more. Please show me why I need to expand on this. Like I don't Brian Forster or someone like that. Like he's
Yeah.
educated, but he is so open to like prove me wrong and enlighten me and expand my consciousness,
Yep.
even in his simpler videos. And so, yeah, like thank you for bringing
Yeah.
him up. So you've worked with Linda Moulton Howe. Do you want to share
Yeah.
anything about your experience with her?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's a fellow native Idahoan, and so I was reaching out to everybody when I first started. I knew nothing about Anunnaki or aliens or anything. I This was all
Hmm.
crazy to me, and so but I was trying to prove my buddy wrong, and so I reached out to Giorgio and David and all these people off the TV
Yeah,
because that's who I knew,
yeah,
that was ufology. I mean, an institution. I couldn't call the University of Washington and be like, give me your best UFO of it. Just, like they
yeah.
don't know about that. They can't explain that. So, um, yeah, Linda was the only one that returned my phone call, and she was absolutely amazing, extremely interested. She actually had a story that she told me where she had taken some of these tablets from a different part of Mexico into Stanford Research Institute. However, Gary Nolan saw the imagery on there, which was an image of Baphomet, and Baphomet was something that was illustrated by Eliphas Levi back in I don't want to say the dates, but it was somewhere in like the 1400s maybe or something like that. Um and this was this being that the Templar basically were tortured by the king of France, and they kept saying this name, and this name was actually demonized. It's this being that looks like this, and we've actually found this being in
Mhm.
multiple depictions in Tula, and it's really interesting because there's a thing that I was watching Tim Hogan talk about here recently, and he said that this translation of Baphomet actually turns into wisdom, and so this could actually be a depiction of the Sophia or one of the forms of the Sophia, and that's got the pine cone on the head and a lot of things, looks almost kind of like a cow or whatever, and so there's a lot of things that could relate to these offerings and this being coming here, and you know what's also interesting about that is you have the Templar who were being tortured by the kings, and this whole king's list and the monarchies and how the monarchies are still in existence, yet they're not really running the countries anymore, but they kind of are. And like there's a lot of really bizarre traits and traditions that have been inherited through kingship. And with the kingship residing so much into this potentially fallen era, it's interesting to see that relation, and possibly that this could be related to why this image of this being was demonized, because they demonized the fallen female. That's why there's no female priests in the Catholic Church. You know, there's no female candle lighters either. They're pretty strict about males there, and I think um, she's why. And in the story of Jesus coming down and saving us, we know that he exorcised seven demons from Mary. And so those seven demons could be the seven archons that had basically bound her into the trapped material world. And by freeing her from those demons, she was able to be taken off. And it talks about her being taken to the 13th eon and hid away for a later time to come back. And so when she was taken away, I believe that might be when new species stopped. And on this earth, we've never witnessed a new species born, but we have so many species that the ratio of odds here of us not seeing this or documenting this is virtually impossible, um, unless that the virgin birth was doing a lot more than just creating human and biological life, but also the plants and everything else as well. All an experiment.
Huh. Yeah, because less right now, only 1% of everything that's existed is alive today, right? Is that the yeah,
I don't know the numbers, but I know it's a ridiculous number,
yeah.
and the amount of species total in all here is crazy. I mean, they said that all the oil in the ground was from the dinosaurs and stuff. And then when you see this kings list and how long these kings ruled, and when we
Mhm.
see these carbon dates,
Thousands of years. Yeah.
yeah, the carbon dates span from 8,000. Actually, there's UFOs and certain artifacts that are even younger, like 12, 1,500 years, 3,000 years, that are more ceramics. Stuff in Awelos is 8 to 20,000 years, 17,000 to 40,000 years in Tula. And so these could be the different eras in that King's list, and they might be actual resets of time, or they had these cultures that
Mhm.
were centralized in certain areas, and that they would cause a volcano to blow or whatever to reset this land. In Tula, when they're digging down, they dig down and there's a ground floor. It's actually a cement type material. It glows in the dark just like a lot of these pieces do, and
Wow.
and so there's three ground floors that are built on top of each other all the way down to the 17th foot level. And I haven't seen anybody go deeper than about 20 feet. But nonetheless, just that data alone tells us that there's major events that have occurred in between these little eras. And
Oh my gosh. Please let there be another Darren Curyu underneath Mexico. Can you like the one in Turkey? Can you
could very
imagine?
well be. Yeah. I mean, and I think with the SAR scans, we're going to get to that point, even though
Mhm.
they just recently tried to eliminate Biondi's research in Egypt, saying that what he saw isn't
Mhm.
real. But
Mhm.
I still haven't seen scientific data. It was only inconsistencies in the way the paper was written, which doesn't mean that the data is inaccurate. It just means that there's inaccuracy, which they'll nitpick those papers and get rid of them if they want to. 'Cause we've seen this a lot with zero point energy and that type of stuff. I mean, I had someone from the PTO office for the trade patents and whatnot,
Mhm.
and they said that they had hundreds of submissions for zero point energy devices, and in her entire 30 or 40 years of being there, she never saw one be approved.
Wow. Well, because it would put everybody out of business. They're not gonna
And,
approve anything to
and
put big pharma or, anybody out.
or
Sorry, go
big
ahead.
oil,
Or
and
big
you look
oil,
at
yeah.
the wars over oil and how certain things were done in the past. These resets could be where the oil came from, and if these resets were done by Saturn, and Saturn wanted worship, and when you look at the word holocaust, it's a burnt offering, and in most cultures this offering is to Saturn. And so by burning the oil in our engines and taking the shortcuts, and by burning the oil in our heaters to warm up our houses, we could be making offering to Saturn even though we don't want to, or we didn't even know it. And that might be just part of the, because the rebellion of this opposition, that's what the Star of David came from. That it used to be the Star
Mm,
of Saturn. And it's the pyramid of the brotherhood with the eye reverted or inversed, and that's what
mm.
the star is. And so that's the opposition to God, and the reverse pyramid, or the false trinity that tried to come in and take the name in vain.
Wow. Have you written a book on symbolism?
No,
You
no, not
should.
yet. Well, the yeah, and that sort of stuff. I mean, my, I only know what I know. I'm not an expert on any of that type of stuff, so I really haven't
Yeah,
felt comfortable doing that at this point yet. But as I continue to go, a lot of this stuff is hopefully can get verified, and we can get more stability on doing it, so it's not something I publish and have to change later. Because right now,
yeah.
with AI and all the different people coming forward on this and working, like I've been working with Agni Sartori, who's the one that translated, or I should say Dr. Agni Sartori, and she translated the Bugosphere and the proto Sanskrit that was on there. And so she's actually been working, because she was down in Mexico to do that. She's got introduced to these pieces and completely spiraled onto going deep into this and starting to do translations of these pieces. And man, the stuff that she's relating the languages to, it's really quite promising.
Can you explain the Bugosphere for anyone that doesn't know what that is? I don't.
Yeah.
I vaguely know what that is. Like I know what it. Yeah, please, please.
So the Buga sphere is called this. It's a metal sphere that crashed in Colombia, Buga,
Mm.
Colombia, and it was like a UFO. They had it on their camera, and it hit a power line, big electrical spark, and it started to kind of go all weird. There's no propulsion. It's just floating in the air, going in weird directions. Eventually, comes down to the ground. It was ice cold, burnt the guy's fingertips off, killed all the vegetation all around it in the crash site, which is still dead today.
How big is it?
Um, it's about, well, it only weighed about, I think it was like 2 kilograms when they found it,
Okay.
but it gained weight consistently. It weighs over 20 kilograms today, so it's about
Did
a
it
little
move
bit
to
bigger than a
America?
basketball. No, it's in Mexico.
No, it
Uh,
gained weight. Sorry.
no, but that's part of the propulsion system, I think,
Yeah.
because there was when they did the initial CT scans, like 2 or 3 days after it came in, there was an odd, it looked like a vessel inside of there that was clear as day on the CT scans. Since then, they've done another CT scan. It's not there anymore. It's completely gone, which is really bizarre. And they've spun this device on this special machine, and it actually gained a substantial, or it lost a substantial amount of weight, rather, just by spinning it. So there could be, I mean, nobody knows. But nonetheless, it is the most documented craft that is in civilian possession, that has a lot of science and a lot of people around it, that I would say, I mean, I feel confident. Why I feel confident the most about the Boogosphere, though, is in January of 2025, we had a ball like this. I'm going to lift this thing up. It's extremely heavy. Oh my gosh. This ball right here, which is a mosaic sphere. It was completely documented start to finish, coming out of the ground in January. And it had that chip, because the Boogosphere has this weird chip on it. And so it
Oh,
had this chip on there.
It looks like
And
a technical drawing of like a
yeah,
microchip.
no, you
Yeah.
can make it in a. We actually made one,
Oh,
and did
cool.
quite a bit of simulation on it, on a PCB. And what it does is absolutely insane. It's a functional piece of equipment, just the geometrical design itself and how it's polarized together. But that chip appears on many, many of these pieces, and the Boogosphere crashed in March. So seeing that chip on this metal device that crashed was really an eye opener. And the Boogosphere was carbon dated at like 12,800 years ago by the University of Georgia. And obviously, you can't carbon date metal, just like you
mhm,
can't carbon date stone. So there's
mhm.
techniques, though, where you find
Like
organic
algae.
material.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Okay.
the Boogosphere has all these holes around the hemisphere. There's like 32 holes or 33 holes, and inside of them are fiber optics. And so there's a resin that holds the fiber optics in place. And that resin was sampled by Dr. Stephen Greer and sent to the university, and that's where they came up with that date. And so, for
Okay.
instance, like this material, we get our carbon dates from this material,
Yeah.
and this is a stone, but it was a manufactured stone, like a geopolymer. And so, because it's manufactured with an organic binder, the organic binder can be separated with a graphene separation and tested for age as well.
Are there symbols on the Boogosphere?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what Agni Sartori deciphered. It's
The
the
Sanskrit.
the
Okay,
chip,
sorry. Yeah.
and then has Proto Sanskrit all the way around it, and her translation is amazing. I did a video on it on my
Oh,
YouTube here about 3 weeks ago or something.
okay. Good.
Yeah,
Everyone go watch that. Go to Alien Carvings and go watch that. Um, wow. Okay, so how is that not the most interesting and biggest piece of news that we have? Like, why do people care about reality TV when something that's been carbon dated to 12,000 years ago literally dropped from the sky and has Sanskrit all over it?
yeah. All the people that own the networks, the stations, the data centers, the search
Yeah.
engines, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, they are all somehow connected to this, and that disclosure is a congressional argued topic. It is, there's bills with disclosure in it in our Senate, and so clearly something's been hidden from us. That's an obvious given since we've already had war.gov files being released. They've kept things top secret in regards to this, including things about the Nazca mummies that came out in the first release.
Mhm.
And so the fact that they felt the need to keep this stuff top secret tells me everything I need to know on that end, that there's absolutely something that is being hidden from us. And how they did that is probably the reason why it's still a secret, because it's going to potentially make people very upset that they've been
Lied
brainwashed
to.
and conned
Manipulated. Yeah.
Okay.
heavily.
So what you just said, like I just had an epiphany with what you just said because as human beings, what do we hide the most? Our authenticity. Even though
Right.
we act on our authentic, especially as we
Yeah.
age, right? But our
Makeup,
deep,
all of it. Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, our deepest, most dark, not darkest, but like our deepest secrets and the things that mean, I would say, the most to us, right? Like our belief systems and things.
Yep.
Those are the things that there are some things that we'll never ever share with another human being, right?
Mm.
So that is directly mirrored by what is being hidden from us in general. Like
Yeah.
that is such
That's
a
why we
like,
have reality TV, so people
ugh,
can experience the reality that they want to portray, not the
yeah,
real reality that we have to really experience. And I,
okay,
I think um,
yeah,
that it's a the Bible warned us of this, and it's something that, again, if we didn't have the mystery, if we didn't have something to fight for, we couldn't break through. And in order for light to exist, you have to have dark first, and it has to cut through the darkness. So that's probably why. I mean, there's got to be a reason for all this. People, there's atheists and things out there that are very against the Bible, and I was
mhm,
borderline one of those people. But the truth is for me, the historical lesson here, we have ancient Athens, Greece. We have Jerusalem. There's the
mhm,
wall. There's certain remnants of this temple and that temple and Baalbek and all of these.
mhm,
They're there. So for me to not look at these ancient texts as a historical potential is impossible. And
yeah. I don't know. There's a few things that I choose to believe as truth. The Dogon tribe and all of the um, I think they're tablets that that talk about the colors of the planets that we just recently have been able to develop telescopes to actually see that the planets are different colors, and
yeah,
the reproductive system and things that there's absolutely no way that they had that information. And these tablets are thousands of years old that are explaining this. So when I
right.
started learning about them, and then the caves in, I want to say in Turkey, where they discovered those spinning discs. Do you know what I'm talking about? There are discs that kind of look like a CD, but they're stone.
Oh no, I was thinking that antithericrium or whatever weird thing, but no, I'm not sure on this.
Oh man, I can't think of the name of the location.
Hmm.
It's really cool though. Like when it finally comes to me, I'll message you. Because there are well, I won't keep talking about it because I'm not going to be able to make sense of it. But there are a few things that when I've heard them, they just the soul recognizes truth,
Yeah,
right? And
I think so.
there are just some inarguable truths, I believe. Hang on, let me
Yeah,
tell my kid to be quiet.
yeah. Inarguable truth, I think, is kind of what led me at this point, like to even question this in the first place, because it like I said, I've been to all these gem shows. Nothing ever struck me like that. I've never spent 7 years of my life writing books about anything in my life. So
Yeah,
to go down this road, you
to
know,
Tucson and try to look for a sky stone.
everywhere. Yeah, it's drug me all over the place. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Since you mentioned stones again, I do have a question. What do you think these Andara crystals are? Do you think that they're glass, or do you think they really were something that were buried and dug up?
I
Because
mean,
some people wholeheartedly believe that these are life changing.
yeah, and they could very well and so they could very well be glass, but they could be ancient and they could be very special.
Yeah.
This culture made glass. I've got numerous pieces of glass. I've even got
Mm,
a crystal ball that was found on
Wow.
this massive. This thing holds this thing.
sorry, I'm new. Okay. Wow. Dude, that's so badass. And everyone is an elongated skull. So tell me how that wasn't real.
Yeah,
Pe-
yeah, and we find them too
Wow.
in the fossil record. There's some pretty weird skulls that have come out of Mexico and surrounding areas. Um, even just the Paracas culture alone, you look at the shaping and how many different ones there were. This would definitely go along. And there's oral traditions passed down in Guerrero, passed down in Peru in the Nazca region about experiments and cloning and different types of things that occurred in these areas. And so when we hear the stories of Inanna or Ninhursag going through this 750-year process of trying to refine the Adamu species, how many hybrids and how many attempts and little civilizations and little cultures did she create in order to get to that refinement? And this might be why there's so many different shaped heads, because it was, okay, we need someone that can do this but that's not going to rebel against us again, like the no or the
Hmm.
Ijiji did, right?
But not so big that they fall over. But
Yeah, it's got
yeah.
to be the perfect balance. Our whole existence is built on balance. And the demiurge, the story of the demiurge was he was this imperfect godhead. Essentially, she tried to create a godhead, Sophia, and
Hmm.
she did so without her partner or mate. And so, because of that, she acted alone, and that went against God's order, and created an unbalanced being that created the material world. So everything in the material world is imperfect, which we know to be true,
Hmm.
because of that.
Wow. Huh.
I
Okay,
always
Shane.
wondered, like, why is everything so, everything decays, everything dies, everything goes away, like what, you know very
Mm.
strange. And then you look at some of the things that don't, like they say the diamond is
Hmm.
forever. I'm not trying
Hmm.
to plug the company that uses that, but at the
Yeah.
same point, this notion about crystals, specifically quartz and different things, how that was created and what came to be to make these things under all this pressure and conditions. I think it's really interesting because of the photonic universe that we live in. These crystals resemble this vibration. Crystals
Hmm.
vibrate, it's a fact. And
Right.
where they inherit this vibration could be from the light that they were initially crystallized from. So it could be crystallized light that created this, or the light could be embedded into these crystals somehow because of that flash moment of creation that trapped it in there, or something of that nature. But that might be why wizards and all this mythos is surrounded about putting a crystal on a staff or scepter,
Hmm.
because there might have been power to be able to be harnessed from this
Hmm.
event that took place.
Hmm. Well, that's the belief that the capstones, so the ether, that whole connection, the water underneath the pyramids, they think that possibly the king's chamber um, held something like crystals or something. The
Yeah.
capstone brought the ether through the pyramid. Oh yeah. There
Yep.
and there's also belief that crystals were all over Atlantis, which I believe Atlantis was what we now can call Earth. I think it was all our different continents or something that
Kind
pre-existed
of
our
like
continents.
Israel. Like Israel in some biblical frames is the
Hmm.
entire community or collective,
Yeah.
not just one. And same with Babylon.
Mhm.
This
Hmm.
actually goes and cookie cuts all over the place when you break it down like that. So
Hmm.
I think you're
Hmm.
right.
Yeah, yeah. I just that's the most.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense, but it also well. Anyway, crystals were a huge part of um,
Yeah.
lighting free energy,
Yep.
Tesla, yeah, and sound and vibration,
Yeah.
because we have found so many chambers that
Oh,
healing chambers with sound and vibration. Okay,
you
Shannon,
know,
what do you
I
percol?
was
Oh, sorry, no, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say it's strange that it's illegal to chant in Egypt's temples. Like you can't go over there and
Mm,
do it. And Dr.
mhm,
Hertak, he I saw a video of him chanting some names of the divine in this temple, and he only did it 3 or 4 times, but it's probably the most hair-raising experience. And he says that these temples are in such perfect acoustic nature that they can actually allow your conscious to raise up into a different level of dimension while you're chanting these names or saying these specific tones and frequencies.
yeah. Billy Carson, I think, had a really trippy experience. Jimmy Church had some really trippy experiences. You know who that is?
Oh
Fade to
yeah,
Black. Yeah,
yeah.
he was I guess you could, like our MC for one of our conferences. Dude, I didn't corner him, but one of the best things about helping at conferences is you get these moments with people where you're like, tell me the truth. Like, what have you seen or who have you talked to or, and
Yeah.
yeah, he was telling me some pretty cool stuff because
He went down to Mexico and dug for these artifacts. Yeah,
hmm
he actually went in the cave with
yeah,
the petroglyphs and
yeah, hung out with
it was
Brian Forster and Billy Carson. Yeah, yeah, that's all of it. Oh, we met Bill. What's his last name, Shannon? What
Human
is Kuman?
with the crystal skull. Human.
Human,
oh
Human.
Holman.
Oh my
Yeah,
Human.
God, what a
yeah,
nice man. What an incredibly nice man. Him and his wife.
He was so kind. Just
Yeah.
such a great
yep.
experience to meet him.
Definitely a
Mhm,
good caretaker for that skull for sure.
mhm. Yeah, we got to visit with the skull and they had an hour before the conference started if you wanted to participate, you could meditate with it, and it was we didn't do that part, we were running around like crazy, but, yeah, yes, what an amazing person to be the host, and show it respect, you know?
Yeah,
It and also be like, "I don't care what you think." Like, he's such a good, kind man that it would be really hard to try to get him to admit, like, if it's true or not, like,
yeah.
it would be like
It,
trying to argue with Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Well, it's really it's not about that. Like I truly believe. I mean, the sugar skulls and the Day of the Dead and all of these type of things
Mhm,
come back to this culture to some degree. And crystal skulls are an internationally known thing. It's depicted on artwork from Europe as well, which is
mhm,
quite interesting. So they had this iconic purpose way back before carving them was really even logical. So that's really interesting to me. There's also Uri Geller, who was
mhm,
documented given a crystal skull by Vicente Fox, the president of Mexico.
mhm.
And he said it was an
Mm,
ancient crystal skull found in Mexico. And what's interesting is it's elongated. And so that to me is really good evidence that what we're finding is probably connected to the Mitchell hedges. These skulls are
mhm,
probably connected to that same culture, I guess.
mhm.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinions? Okay, hold on. I'll table that. Shannon, is there anything that you wanted to ask?
No, I
Sorry.
was gonna say, as far as the different materials that are in and around and embedded in the artifacts,
Mhm.
what are some of the more common? I know I've seen hematites on a lot of things,
Mhm.
quartz, different kinds of quartz. Like, what are some of the most common crystals you see in conjunction with the artifacts?
Aventurine, amethyst, both really common. We see sodalite, not as
Mhm.
common. There's onyx, a lot of onyx, a lot of green banded calcite. Trying to think what else. Malachite, fluorite, obsidian, a lot of obsidian, um, different types of like quartzites and variations of
Mhm.
quartz and calcite. The calcite seems to be probably the most predominant thing used for the geopolymers and for um, just the overall. I mean, probably because of its
Mhm.
softness and easy to form, I would imagine. But it
Mhm.
almost seems as if, some of these statues are so intricate with negative space and areas. It's just like the Indian temples in India. The intricacy on some of these, like, the lady's hair has all these holes going through. It's not connected barely to the body, but right here, and it's out of one piece of
Mhm.
stone. And there's even whole temples there that are one piece of stone carved from the top down, and that sort of stuff. It seems as if they had a way to manipulate the stone, maybe in a way that we can't, I'm not going to say imagine, but don't have a scientific
Yeah.
understanding of yet. Because it's almost like 3D printing in some cases, like that. How you got to this with this is, and we actually
Yeah.
see weird layering and stuff that you would see in printing, when we look at the thin slices and the different cross sections of the geopolymers. Like, some of them
Mhm.
seem to be layered in a very methodical way.
How much is phosphorescent or glows? I see that. I don't know how common it is. Is that sort of rare? And
No,
was that
it's
just something extra that the artisans added, or is there a reason for it?
That's a really good question. I mean, there's no scientific proven reason at this point. However, it was definitely intentional. It was
Hmm.
done anciently. We've done scans on it, and it's a strontium-based manufactured powder, very similar to what we would use today. However, what's really unique about it, I would say 90% of the pieces have a UV reaction one way or the other, whether it be phosphorescent, luminescent. um, I owned over 200 of these pieces before we ever knew
Mhm.
that they had this effect. The sellers never brought it
Mhm.
forward. They didn't even know. In fact, I've sold more of these flashlights to Mexico than I should probably have a deal with this company at this point, because it's crazy. I mean, it went like wildfire when they started to realize that this had taken place. And the carving lines are intricately designed with it in many cases. Sometimes it's the entire stone glows green, glows red, glows yellow. There's many different types of blues and purples. So likely they were applying this, they knew about it, they manufactured it. How they got it to glow, the half-life on it is maybe a minute, 2 minutes, or something of that
Hmm.
nature.
Mhm.
So the sun going down is not going to cut it. They're not going to
Mhm.
take it from the cave entrance and run inside real quick and check it
Mhm.
out, because the sun finally got to look at it. They had to
Mhm.
have something that could charge this stuff to look at it. Otherwise, they would never have been able to know it was there. And why spend all that time applying it in all the
Hmm.
cracks and crevices, right? However, if this story is true, and the golden era is real, and God walked with man, and these gods were fallen angels, and they did have halos, and the halo does have ultraviolet light within it, then when these beings came to town to take their praise and have all these idols bestowed upon them, and when they came here, they probably
Wow.
lit the entire place up. Their halo just,
Wow.
everything's green and glowing. The paths, like I said earlier, the ground floors that we found, the concrete even glows. So likely the paths that they walked down to get to these sacred sites to give whatever they did, or however it worked, it was all inherited for that purpose, to give them idolization, or the feeling of glowing sidewalks, or what. I mean,
That's
it's
mind blowing.
it's insane.
Did Bashar, well, David Anka, he the one that told Trevor, "Have you lit it up?" Trevor Hawk?
I don't know. Ricardo was the first one that I knew, and I believe that they had some knowing of this when, yeah, it was. It was. I don't think it was Daryl that told him. I mean, he did read the objects and came up with dates of 30,000 years and stuff. This was almost a decade ago, and we
Yeah.
didn't get those dates in actual paper for years later. So he was on point with a lot of his predictions, and
Mhm.
but the glowing came from somebody else. I believe it was someone that worked at Nassim Harriman's lab, and that's where Trevor learned
Mm.
about it.
And that's here, right?
It
In San
was,
Diego? It was? Okay, yeah.
it was, yeah. Taurus Tech, I think, is what it was called. But then
Okay.
he moved to France, I believe.
Oh,
Nassim did.
bummer. Okay. Okay. I listened to a really good interview with Trevor Hawk on Acid for Squares,
Oh yeah, yep.
and that's why I remembered the Bashar part. But Adair Anka's extremely nice in person, by the way. That was true honor to meet him.
I
Um,
believe that. Yeah.
yeah. Wow. I was trying to think of like what were they using to light it up. The halo, excellent,
That's
excellent.
all I got. I
Yeah,
can't think
yeah,
of. I mean, there's no way they had this. And how else do we do it? I mean, even taking them into the sun and darking
yeah.
it out real quick doesn't give it enough charge to be visible. And then the other factor about this too is like when I charge it with this 35-watt triple stack LED, it
Hmm.
it it's not super. I mean, you can clearly see it with the eye, but when you take long exposure photography, I mean, it's super bright in return. So the amount of light that's coming off, uh, who knows? A lot of these reports of angels and these beings coming into contact, they said it was such a bright light they couldn't look
You
at
have
it.
to
And
avert your face. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. So,
yeah.
so what were the artists using, or they just had a knowing that if they use this type of polymer or they use this type
Well,
of crystal, that it was going to glow?
luminescence, the word comes from luciference, and luciference was something that goes way back, actually. So the knowledge of this has a connection to that, and I don't know specifically why it was called luciference, but it is interesting with um, that involved with this. There's on the Zikuku Hill in Tula, there's a cave, and this is on Google Maps. Like it's a known place. It's been there for I don't know how long, but very long time. And it's the cave of Diablo that sits on this mountain where these things are being found.
That's a really gorgeous cave that's like on the edge of water, isn't it?
Mm-mm. No,
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 okay, okay.
it's
I'm
just
thinking
a
of something else.
lonely
Okay,
little hill. Like I think it's an inactive volcano that sits right at the Tula, and Tula is at the seat of the mountain, Tula de Allende or whatever. That's what that means.
yeah.
It's something at the edge of the mountain, and yeah,
Okay, I figured something out for your question, Shannon. The bioluminescence that's in the water that lights up the algae.
Hmm.
I bet there was some kind of connection to like
To be
that.
able to use it in
Yeah,
a like a
that's
paint.
that's why
yeah.
we saw those cephalopods and everything because they
Well, and
were
if
acknowledging.
Poseidon and that whole story comes from under the sea, like there could have
Yeah.
been entire sea cities that lit up with this. I mean, who knows what they were doing at
Well,
that point,
even
you
in the
know?
deeps of the ocean, there are fish who have
Mm,
phosphorescence
mhm.
Yes. Way deep. Yeah,
Mhm.
no,
way
it's
deep.
the deepest. It's crazy. No,
Sweet.
there's more to the ocean that meets the eye. I'm sure it's so unstudied, and then you have people coming out, congressmen and whistleblowers saying that they've seen, football field sized crafts and stuff moving into our oceans, and NASA's famous study where they inevitably backed off the ocean. Yeah, there's definitely more to the story.
Hmm.
And we
Yeah.
know so very little. We know so
Yeah,
much more about space than we do about what's in our own oceans.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Oh, there's
There was
got to be
some
underwater labs everywhere. I
there
know
were
there
some
are.
divers there off of Japan that went down there, and they found symbology and things that absolutely could be related to this. And there's the whole legend of Mu and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And the
Hmm.
Japanese history is actually really fascinating when you start looking at this topic and what they believed in and how they are such an isolated belief structure and how it existed. So they were on this island and it seemed to survive throughout all of this stuff going on around it. And so how ancient that is and how it connects to this is fascinating to me for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So Matthew LaCroix is one of my favorite researchers, and
Same. He's good.
I've he's wonderful. Yeah, and I've been paying really close attention to him. He's diving in Turkey in the
Like
Lake Van
Van.
region,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
what 70 feet down they found a flower of life, and
Yeah.
other, yeah, there's so much. We're gonna find out stuff that's just gonna blow our minds over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are. Things are
It's
melting in
absolute.
Antarctica. Somebody
It,
just mentioned
so,
Antarctica here.
I just seen that, and I absolutely have seen stuff from Antarctica that I couldn't show. I can't even really talk about it too much. Like I promised him I wouldn't because it's super scary stuff. But I
Brad
just
Olson?
know, nope, no.
Oh, okay, because
This was
I've
from
asked him a
somebody
lot of
else,
I've asked
and
him a
he
lot
comes
of stuff.
forward with it.
Yeah,
He said a
yeah.
lot of things that were confirmed by this, so that gives me
Okay.
a lot more credibility in what this professor told me. Um, but he showed me a picture, a photograph that was black and white, and a real photograph of a statue, and it had the protruded. Thing coming off, the trunk, I guess you could call it, but it was a weird looking being, different than the ones that we find in Mexico. Very
Huh.
big seeming. The statue itself was larger than a man, um, probably
That he
thousands of
found
pounds
in Antarctica?
in Antarctica. Yeah.
Well, with ice core samples, we know that it was a thriving jungle
Yep.
thousands of years ago.
Saber-toothed tigers and all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff down there. Yeah.
So there has to have been entire civilizations that we don't
And that
know
might be
about.
way back, kind of like how Australia has all this talk about the prismatic dragons and the
Mm-hmm.
opals and the Wangina, I think they're called, or the
Yeah.
no, that's the Hopi one. I'm mixing it up. Gosh, I can't think, but they have these beings that look just like aliens down there, um, and there's even Egyptian hieroglyphics in
In Australia.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that could have been from a shipwreck, which is what they've traced it back to, and that very well could be. But the symbology and the type of hieroglyphics on that wall there, there's actually a couple symbols that are really iconic, and one of them is a UFO that is identical to one that's on hundreds of pieces from both Tula and Awelos.
That's so cool. That's so rad.
Yeah.
I watched Billy Carson talk about he met a tribe that took him out to see the artifacts, the Egyptian artifacts in the outback, if that's the right way to say. I don't
Wow.
know if you can just say
The
that. Is that
bush.
a
Yeah.
blanket statement? Okay. And there is a story I don't know where, but there's a story in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, on the walls of a temple, let's say, talking about how two brothers went traveling and one got bit by a snake and died and didn't come back.
Right.
The rest of the story is in a temple in Australia depicting the entire thing. Like those,
Wow.
yeah, mind
Yeah.
blowing.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it. No, there's definitely, but if the King's List is real, they probably used places all over the earth to harness these experiments and to harness the gold. We have gold mines all over the world that have no explanation of who dug them or when. They're old, and especially in Africa.
The
So I mean
Anunnaki.
the
Yeah.
fascination for gold here, the fact that Fort
Mhm.
Knox was supposed to be audited by these two men that took over the country, and that was supposed to be live broadcast, and we still have yet to see it, is probably a pretty big red flag to me.
Well, yeah. I think a bunch of it is in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Or the
This-
Anunnaki take it. There
yeah.
might be a working
Yeah.
relationship right now with the Americans, with the Chinese. We might both be working for the Anunnaki in reality. All these countries might be that way. That's
Mhm.
might be why disclosure is kept as a secret from all the countries. And it seems like all these countries are working together, even though clearly we're like enemies
Mhm.
in some other
On the
facets,
news we are. Yeah. Yeah, the only way to keep people dumb is to make them argue, and then they
Mm-hmm.
don't get past that. If they're arguing and they're standing on their opinions, which is and worrying about something that's none of their business with other people, it keeps them small, and they
Yep.
don't keep searching.
They picked their
Yeah,
favorite piece.
that's an excellent point. A really good way to bring that back. That is an excellent, yeah. Okay, so I pinned a few comments. I'm not trying to ignore y'all in the chat. I'm so grateful that you're here. I didn't even say hi to you guys yet because I was just like, open your brain, tell me everything, tell me your stories. So I did pin a few things here. While I'm looking, Shannon, did you want to ask or comment on anything?
So, what do you think about Antarctica? You know, you've heard about it, you've seen these different artifacts from different places. There's so many things. There's like the whole Antarctica being an energy center and having, different ancient architecture there that we've never been shown.
Yep.
Um, then there's the whole
Pyramids.
German, there's the pyramids piece,
Yeah.
there's the whole German thing that there's a whole middle world.
David
And,
Byrne.
we
Yeah.
know that there's documentation from Germany talking about people that they're sending to populate the Middle
Maps.
Earth.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that? I mean, I know that's a big one, but just the highlights of your thoughts.
No, I think there's a lot to it. I think there's a lot of pretty good evidence. I think that the astronauts that have had to go to their levels, that went to the moon, both Buzz and Neil, have come to odd archaeological expeditions and fascinations with our ancient history. If they were if they did see something, and that's kind of the direction we're going with some of these missions and things about the moon, then it's very possible that there is that there. And the underworld thing is really interesting because the ant people and the Hopi and also
Yep.
what is it, Shambhala, I think, and then there's another
Hmm.
one too. There's definitely these type of concepts all over, and the rebranding of the underworld to be hell. Maybe this is where the land of Nod is, that's referenced in many ancient texts. It's very fascinating, but I definitely think that there's stuff down there that they're keeping us from, and it might be advanced intelligence, and that might be why the weather's so crazy down there too. I mean, clearly there is some explanation for that, um but they might also keep us out on purpose,
Yeah.
or it might
Well,
have been engineered that way.
Hmm.
yeah. Well, the central sun that's depicted in ancient Indian text and also in German text, and yeah, talking about underneath the earth, and yeah, it's oh, I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the World War II thing goes so deep, and the reason for these world wars has been a fascination for sure. Because what Hitler was after specifically, and the spears of destiny and all these biblical objects, these relics, these artifacts. There was a lot of archaeology that went on before the war even broke out. That's what people really they talk about the war, but they don't talk about what happened leading up to it, and
Leading up to the
what was
war. Yeah.
conquered in the Middle East, how the Ottoman Empire failed, what was going on with Germany, how inflated they were, how many objects that they might have been trafficking out of Turkey. Constantinople was fresh set, and all these Muslims had just taken over Babylon and conquered Baghdad. The last stronghold of Babylon was Constantinople. So to think that they didn't have relics of power of the Babylon, if this is all real, those things are probably there. And that might be why Iran goes toe to toe with us today with no
Mhm.
fear, because who knows what type of exotic technologies might be being held back or hidden because um, the warning label. I have no idea, but there's things in the Indian texts, like the Vajra, or
Mhm.
Indra's weapon there. I think it very much resembles Zeus's lightning bolt. We have Ninurta also, was the son of one of the Anunnaki high-end people, and he carried around this thing as well, very similar to Zeus. And so the story of Zeus taking out Typhon and this, coming back to that divine feminine, it's interesting because there's also depictions of this one-eyed being that Marduk slains, and some people revert it back to Tiamat because she had a
Mhm.
one-eyed chaotic perception. That's all she saw was chaos. It wasn't like there was a dualistic perception there. It was just one
Mhm.
side of the story. And so that might be why we have these epic battles, and why some of it seems to promote one favor or the other of one side. That could be where the fall of the feminine initiated, was this mythos in itself becoming mythos.
I've heard comparisons to that the staff that you're talking about that, like,
We
we
found
have.
one.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, yeah, I'll show you this here actually.
we have
There's a c-
government, we have things in the that the government uses that, like, like a sound that goes off and everybody, instantly loses bodily
Hmm.
function. I've heard
Yeah.
Mhm.
comparisons to that
The
with
brown
what you
note.
just, yeah, with what you just
Mm.
mentioned. Okay.
I don't know if that's what it's called,
Yeah, no, you're right.
but like this piece here, this isn't a Vajra. This is like a it has all four sides, but it's
Mhm.
very similar, and they all have either the alien beings, birds, or the eagle or the serpent. It seems like is most common, um, that connect these things. But yeah, very very strange.
Wow. Oh, yeah. That's so cool. Dude, the Templars know what's up, man. They have so much of the symbolism in their stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so
They've probably been protecting this
yeah,
whole time, and
yeah,
we all try to point a finger. This is the same thing as picking the favorite piece. We all try to be like,
yeah,
oh, the Masons are guilty of keeping this, or the Vatican's guilty of the Jews are against. There's all these different people picking sides, but the truth is, if this really is all true, then we're dealing against the master of deception. So the
mhm,
reality is this master of deception has infiltrated every organization that we have, all the
mhm,
schools, all the everything, the politics, the media, the churches. So none of them,
yeah,
they're all corrupted from
Mhm.
within. They all have a beautiful foundation that
yes,
was
right,
was a purpose, but there's corrupt. Maybe it's the Illuminati rank that's corrupt in the Freemasons. The rest of the Freemasons are good. I don't know,
yeah,
obviously. I mean, clearly all speculation, but that's what it seems. There is no guilty party here, and I think that's why disclosure is going to have to come from the people, because we have to accept that this is our physical disability, the dualistic nature of who we are that caused this. And it's like a hoarder with a bunch of stuff at their house. Like, this is inherent inside of you to collect all this and to store it because of
mhm,
something. There's this it's built into who we are. And
yeah,
I think that's kind of where we're at in this world of dogma, is that we've we've distorted the truth so much by having so much corruption in so many places that it's like a fishing story, like, oh, that thing was 64 pounds. So we have all these stories that have been told throughout time, and all the wars around them and their outcome. They say whoever wins the
mhm,
war is the one that's going to paint history and the narrative. And I think that is our demise in terms
mhm,
of where the dogma comes from, and that's what's causing so much altercation between us all right now. Is we're all technically the same, but we have this distorted truth to where there's no way for one person to actually fathom the real truth without going through a college course of years. That's for
mhm,
me as a skeptic. I came in and then I started to learn about all this, and it's taken me years to try to be like, yeah, I mean, this is what I believe now. I had to completely
mhm,
change my whole thoughts on religion. And
mhm,
so that's something. If we all have to go through something similar, it's going to take serious effort and a long time to learn about all this. And that's probably the purpose of our show here right now, is just
mhm,
to talk about this.
mhm.
More people need to sit down and have a conversation about the potential truth at hand.
I agree. It's where you place your attention. So if you ignore
Yeah.
all of the things that are put right in front of you as distractions and all the things to get you addicted and belief systems and fear and limiting beliefs and
Yeah.
masking your authenticity, when you push all that aside and you go on what I guess you could call an ascension journey and then have these conversations, yeah, then we're ready. But we are disclosure,
It's
our
true though.
abilities,
Yeah.
like we any abilities beyond the five senses that we've identified with and can use and harness now means that we are remembering who we are and we're waking up.
Yeah.
So telepathy and telekinesis and mediumship and all that, that's very real.
It
And
is.
if you want a reading, let me and Shannon know. Um, and
I don't do it.
yeah, oh yeah,
Let's
No,
do
and
it.
it's nothing against it.
yeah,
I'll just say it because I think it's important. Like, it's for me, the mystery is what keeps me coming back tomorrow. And if I get a
mhm,
seed in my mind that's a potential, like, that could throw me off from the natural course of
Mhm.
trusting my gut and doing this. And so I
mhm,
think, um, I've refrained from this, and like, I love hearing about it, like with
yeah.
what Daryl did, and I mean, but it's something that, yeah, I just don't do it.
The most important
Mhm.
thing is that you know yourself.
and that was the most important. I just wanted to
Yeah.
know the truth, and I think that's why I've reached out in the past. But now that I have real faith in this,
Mhm.
I just go with that. Like, I trust the
Yeah.
system.
Mhm.
It seems to be for a reason.
Well, and you've got I'm going to make an assumption that you've gotten to a place where you can trust yourself
Yeah.
and trust your faith and trust your own belief system and that you can lead yourself to your own answers and your own questions. I have doves that are chiming in right now. So if you're wondering what that sound is in the background.
Real doves.
Yeah, I rescue
Nice.
a lot of animals and I
That
have, yeah.
so the archaeologist that reached out to me from Hawaii there, that got me into the book of knowledge, which was JJ's book, The Keys of Enoch,
Mhm. Yes.
and that book is all about the return of the dove, which is this Sophia being. And so, like, this whole connection to that was really, I started that story earlier and got sidetracked, but
Hmm.
I
They brought it
that's the
back.
doves. That's the return of the dove. Yeah, yeah.
They brought it back. Yeah, I rescue pigeons off the streets of San Diego, and then I've recently um, rescued doves from 3 different people, and a lot of them come through here in rehab. Okay, we have had you on for an hour and 4 minutes, so I do want to bring up a few pinned comments here.
Yeah, of
I
course.
have one question left, and then Shannon, did you have anything that you wanted to ask or speak on?
No, I think, one of the things, just one more thing, like, where do you see a lot of the darkness coming in?
I think the darkness is inside of us.
Hmm.
And again, that's the balance of nature, to be able to gain wisdom. We cannot gain wisdom without the threat of death. The threat of death gives
Mhm,
us the reason to live. It gives us a reason to cut through and be the light. We are the living light, so we have to cut through the darkness, and without the
Hmm.
darkness we are bored and lazy and sitting on the couch wondering what we're going to do. So in
mhm,
reality, I praise the good with the bad and the bad with the good, and just know, and that's where the faith comes in. At this point, I just believe that it's going to happen for a reason. Like, we're all going to get to the point of overcoming our obstacles here, or overcoming the
mhm.
sins because of this. So this is the truth that'll set us free. And if I had to guess, anyways.
Yeah. All right. My question is, what do you know, or what do you believe about the arcs that a lot of different groups in the spiritual and conscious communities talk about
Yeah.
arcs where there are potentially sleeping giants that will be reawakened or artifacts and objects that are being discovered. Do
Yeah.
you have any belief or study in that area?
We found a thing that looked like an ark, or I shouldn't say we found it. That's completely misleading. A team in Mexico found an ark and brought it forward about 2 years ago, and I was able to post a video about it and document it. But as far as their story and what they are, there's really interesting things. So we know there was quite a few different arcs talked about in Egypt and other places as well, not just in biblical record. We
Right.
know that the Anunnaki talked about the tablets of destiny often. The tablets of destiny were passed between Tiamat and different Anunnaki beings, and they held the greatest power. We know the Holy of Holies, the Ark, is a very great piece of power, especially on the battlefield. Whoever holds the ark wins the battle, is what the
Mhm,
story goes. And obviously, the radiation and some of the
mhm,
things that are poised from this is interesting. And so, my theory is that, well, where did the tablets of destiny come from? Where did that come to be? Well, there was, the story of Tiamat and Apsu was killed, and Tiamat flipped out and raised up the lizard armies and the reptilians, and created this revolt. That's where the,
mhm,
the the revolt came from on that end of it.
mhm,
So it's possible that Apsu's soul could have been bound to these tablets, or a creature of great divinity was bound to these tablets and gave them the ability to harness a false trinity. Because if Apsu was also a direct thought of God, it would be like trapping God's spirit into a tablet. And these were masters of alchemy, they were masters of spell casting and occult practices. We find all of it, and Ouija boards, everything. We found a lot of really
yeah,
occult stuff here. So
yeah.
That being said, if there is truth to the occult on that nature, Aleister Crowley's work didn't come out of thin air. There's a lot of
Right.
real mysterious stuff here, and King Solomon especially too. That it's highly possible that type of witchcraft was done, so the opposing pyramid or the Saturn cult could create a false trinity, and so they used the
Mm,
fallen feminine, the mother, the soul of the father, and the child, which was Saturn, the creation, the demiurge of the Sophia. So that was the false trinity. But they didn't actually need God anymore because they had Apsu's soul in the tablets of destiny, which they were able to use to create their hybrid beings and their species or whatever heck magic that they were concocting with this type of whatever the heck these were. And
yeah.
then so then you see these tablets, and then Egypt, it was passed around, and then Moses took this ark and built this ark and took these
Yeah.
tablets, and what why he built the ark, and it needed to contain these tablets. Is it possible that they were the tablets from God, but they were actually the tablets of destiny being held and kept away from the wars and away from other people to get them, so that Babylon could retain that type of power at a later time? I don't know, but it does seem interesting, because if a spirit of a divine was captured into an object like that, then the radiation of the halo or the energy coming off of this could absolutely make people sick and require special garments and things to be able to be around it. And that's how it would keep that vibration. I mean, otherwise, it's like, is this some sort of nuclear something? And it doesn't
Mm,
make a lot of sense
mhm.
why, unless they were able to harness that. But why they would carry it around with them doesn't make a lot of sense, and why they would protect
Yeah.
it and cause so much looking for it. So many
Right.
people, the most powerful weapon on the battlefield. Like, how does that get to be the holy of holies unless this is the spirit of God that's trapped in these tablets, and that's why it's so holy.
But then why would it be in men's silly little games of war and things too? It's that's so interesting.
But it
God.
wasn't. I mean, it's just like the Sophia being trapped here, and these were mates, and they worked without each other. But how do you learn the wisdom to work together as an angel eternal light being? Well, if you fall together and you both act on your own and you both fail, then the connection and the reunion, like the Aquarius gospel talks about, could absolutely be the Christos and the Sophia coming back to a term, or coming back to the light, knowing the wisdom from this fall. And that could
So
be how they instigated the fall.
is that it's almost like the story of Adam and Eve is like an Aesop's fable of what you're telling us.
Well, Adam and Eve, I think, was a creation that was saved from this era. Like, I think
Yeah.
that they were absolutely, they lived much longer. Adam was very tall. Like, some of these things seemed to be like the saved species, but it wasn't completed, and they continued
Yeah.
making tweaks and altercations after
Lilith.
that. And we know,
Yeah.
Genesis talks about the Nephilim being existed before and after the flood. So
Mhm.
that could also be why the Spanish had to take so much time and go through South America and Central America so methodically. They may have been
Wow.
exterminating Nephilim as well while they were there, to keep it a secret for the church, or however they were. Because we know the Spanish were paid by the Vatican pretty dearly for doing that. And then also all these churches pop up in Central and South America on these sacred sites. So again,
Yeah.
it's just like the reservations for the Indians. We'll put a church
Mhm.
on it, and that'll be our reservation, our land that we'll manage, because we know that there's stuff underneath the ground there that's going to distort our narrative that we're trying to create,
Wow.
potentially. I gotta add that all the time,
Yeah.
otherwise I sound
Yeah.
like an insane guy. This is
Yeah, I
some
know.
really deep stuff, and I think about it a lot. So if I come off ridiculous, I feel
No.
ridiculous. But there is logic there that I have to connect dots to at least fathom.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. The more my like I have a little bit of information like we all do on 1,000 different subjects, and the more I can make them connect or expand on them, the better. Like
Yeah.
that's the purpose of the show. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share two funny comments, and then there's three questions here, and then
Okay.
we'll free you up to back to your family and your
Dinner time.
yeah. Okay. Okay, this one was great. Uh if she, I hope Colleen's still here. I'm a rock whore and lived on Crystal Show and never seen anything like your sky
Yeah.
stone. That was funny.
Cheers to that.
Yeah. Our friend Sage said, not me making accidental sacrifices to Saturn when I put gas in my car. That was really
Yeah.
good. Okay. And then, oh,
I need to make a
here's a
shirt with that. Yeah. No.
totally. I'm sure she would highlight that. Um, Z said it's fascinating that the Hongshan artifacts are related to the, how do you say that?
To Abuelos.
Awelos ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is some of the ones that are on eBay occasionally will be Egyptian and pyramids and that sort of stuff from that Hongshan culture, which, you know, just it's so hard to believe. But then I had to start double thinking it because obviously the Abuelo stones are no different. I mean, these are
hmm
just being passed off as the same type of thing. So yeah,
It's a trip too in all of the things that we in the topics that come forefront in this community. For some reason, the Asian culture doesn't stand at the forefront as much as like the Egyptian and like they're all there, but there isn't as much information about what's going on like in ancient China and Japan.
yeah, ancient
Yeah.
China specifically, and all that was during the conquering there where Taiwan was formed. They took a lot of that stuff to Taiwan, and that could be why Taiwan is
It's
in
hidden.
such hot water with China right now, and why China still claims that all is theirs because they want that stuff back. They can't have that truth coming out later down the road if they're going to go forth with such a lie, like it seems like many of these countries are doing. I mean, we're shooting Hellfire missiles at UFOs like that's been released by Congress. Like, so you have to think about that. Like, what would give us the right to shoot a missile at this? Like, what do we know, and what are we fighting against? And if this really is the Gigi that have escaped, are we still being manipulated by the Anunnaki to shoo off them? It's crazy,
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah,
all perfectly good speculations because the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. So
yeah.
I agree with you. Uh, okay. Oh, here's a good one here. Emily, when you say
Oh
they
yeah.
are testing the artifacts, quickly, could you explain how you test an artifact, your alien carvings?
Yep. Yeah, we use scanning electron microscope, which has an EDS or a displacement for the makeup of all the elements, and that's primarily how we've determined a lot of things with the metal and the geopolymers and the different stones. Looking at the engravings and seeing the symmetry. When you get into the that type of a zoom where it's electron microscope gets in so far, you can actually see how things are put together. There's the XRD testing, which is something that we're going to be doing here soon, which will tell us for sure if it's a geopolymer. It shows the atomic level bonds of the crystals. We have carbon dating on the different adhesives as well as the geopolymers, as well as bones and different charcoals and things found throughout the digging process, which those dates often are 1500, 1800 years instead of the 10,000 years. So it seems like the pieces are much older than whoever buried them. And we do thermoluminescent dating on the ceramics and stuff like that as well. Any sort of anything that'll give us data.
Just watched one of your videos you put out a month ago, and you showed a cave being discovered, and that
Mhm.
there were carvings on an arch leading into the cave, and I didn't even. I was like, I've never even thought about how that. Of course, there are because I've only seen the pieces, right? Can
Right.
imagine walking up and seeing that and knowing that's already blowing your mind, and now you're going to go in and dig and unearth some items too.
and, and then those guys opened that like so just like, yeah, we're just gonna open it and take all the pieces out and sell them to the highest bidder. I mean, it's awful. I mean,
Yeah,
it disgusts me, even though I love it and I'm addicted to it and
yeah,
I can't get enough of it. It makes me absolutely sick to my stomach that this is being stolen from us. I mean, that's why I
yeah,
do it so loudly because I want it to
yeah,
stop so much sooner than people understand.
yeah. Okay,
It
well,
needs to stop.
in what yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Um what you're saying is that we should respect and leave it. It can be it, if we discover it, leave it so that it's left in its sanctuary and its home.
I mean, if the pharaoh's tombs had curses and stuff put on them, and you're
Yeah,
gonna open up a sealed door by the Toltec that has a bunch of fallen angel, demonic type stuff behind that
yeah,
door, what you're unleashing into the world, and knowing it's definitely a risk. You know, if there's sacrifice and some of these things really do inherit people power and magic type stuff.
hmm,
That's not what I want my neighbors to know and to be doing and to be tampering with, if that's the
yeah,
case. So I get that side of it, but yeah, at the same point, we would never have the truth if these guys didn't do that. And that's why I support them, and I still fund
yeah,
buying the pieces and stuff like that, because if we stop this, we're never going to get to the finish line. So it has to be done. And they said disclosure might come from the people. So maybe that's why these people are being allowed to continue this. Maybe the governments are trying to just back into the bushes while we come up with logic in nature, because telling us might destroy us. You know, having one group tell us versus the
yeah.
other could cause people to, oh well, America told us the truth, everybody else was liars, or who
Right.
knows, but it could be a
Yeah.
real house of cards that we're
I
dealing with
like
here.
I like the gray area though. They're allowed to dig and you're allowed to buy it because they're not real. But
Yeah.
at the same time, once you get a hold of them, all these important scientific labs and locations won't test it because they don't want to be associated with it not being yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
weird gray area. Do you have any suggest okay, so now that Shannon has an artifact, can you make
Mhm.
any suggestions as to like li- like is there anything that she can purchase or use to discover new things on it?
I mean, as far as research goes,
Like
yes
your
and no.
EMF reader, or am I saying that
Y-
right? Yeah.
that type of knowledge is definitely valuable. As far as like doing carbon dates, there might be places to test that on that piece, depending if it's geopolymer or whatnot. I have to see the piece, but yeah, I mean, the more compounded science we get, the more tests that can be shown. You know, if it's going to come from us, we need to act as that body. So I always encourage people to do research on their pieces. um, in fact, there's an entire group of people that have done so much research now that they're actually having an event over in Michigan that's gonna, you know, they went down there and dug themselves. And I don't want to be a part of the digging or the unearthing of these, and I don't
Hmm.
recommend people to do it because it's a war crime. Like you go down there and start taking things out and trafficking artifacts that aren't yours. There's no extradition limit. There's no statute of limitations. 30 years down the road, you might get ripped out of your living room in cuffs and sent down to a Mexican jail. Like that's the reality of the situation. So to mess with that with a 4-year old, I'm like, get me away from that. I just write the news. I just
Yeah,
document what they're sending me to
right.
my phone. Like I've never been down there. I think that's the safest play at this point. But bless these people's souls for doing the stuff that I wish I could do, because you know, this group has gone down there and put their hands in the dirt without any care. They put their lives on the line to tell us something, and I can't help but say thanks for that.
Well, I hope that they're safe and protected because of what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, okay, here's the last. Okay, so Kara mentioned Dave Metcalf in Florida does kayak tours looking at the bioluminescence. Would be interesting to have you and Dave in an interview together. I
we
think,
should do that. We should do that for sure.
well,
Dave's a good friend of mine. He actually has a museum
he's
that
going to
has
be
these
on.
artifacts.
Yeah, he's going to
Oh,
be on our show. Do you want to come
You want to
back?
join?
sure, of course.
Oh, he's on
We'll
next
make it a
week.
party. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
With
If he wants, I
U-
mean, whatever's good.
UFO
Yeah, I'm
webcam.
down. So,
Yeah, because so Kara is a friend of ours. I told her I discovered, I found him and that he had the, Kimberly, what's wrong with your brain here? He has a museum. He just opened his
yeah.
museum. So she went and had a really cool experience.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, he's going to be on next week. So if you're interested, same time next week,
Heck
please feel
yeah.
free to come back.
No,
Yeah.
he's good. He's good people. I mean, talk about going in head first, you know, like
Thank you.
much respect. Again, you know, it takes people like that. It's going to take a village of us, all just putting it aside and doing it. And I think that's what we're
Mhm.
seeing is this grassroots movement of people saying, I'm going to go find out for myself. And that makes my heart feel good. I really like to
Yeah.
see that because, being the tinfoil guy that's like, yeah, I don't know, it's just really great to have people validate at that level. Like I wake up and see groups of people down there digging. I don't even know a single individual there. I shared this story the other day, and I mean, they're down there pulling artifacts out. It's
Yeah.
it's wild to see it at that level.
Man, if I could do it over again, I would wanna be an archaeologist. Like, I've
I
thought that my
wouldn't. No, no, because it's all controlled.
No,
It's
I
like
get it, yeah.
as soon as you have that contract and you spend that much on your education, they own
Yeah.
you. Most of those
Well,
people never get to dig,
yeah. No, you're right, you're right. I guess
and that's
maybe
why.
I'd sneak in and infiltrate some quiet organization in Nazca and go learn a bunch of stuff
Just go
and
do it. Just go
yeah.
do it. Just go down
I
there and Trevor, yeah, he went down and spent
Yeah.
quite a bit of time in Peru. And man, the archaeologist is like, "What are you doing?" He's got a Geiger counter, and he comes up to him and he's like, "You want to see the inside and stuff?" And chips off some rock for him. We got to test it in the lab
Oh
when
my
I was
god.
there. We got to see that,
Yeah.
these walls at this temple might be geopolymer also.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That might be how they
Yeah.
built all this stuff in the Stone Age. We don't know, but it's interesting if they had the ability to make rock. At what end does that stop? I mean, I've got a 22,000 gram piece of jade that's hollowed out and made into a skull with an alien riding on the back. And I mean, this sculpture out of jade, it makes no sense unless they had a way to soften it.
That's so badass. Do you just sit in
This is
there and you
amazing.
you just sit in your room in your chair and just look around, you're like, "I this is all mine. These are my" like, it's amazing.
So,
Not yours, but,
yeah.
like, the fact that you, for a time being, is in your care.
Yeah, it's like living in a museum. It really is. My son, he comes down here and opens every drawer and asks questions about all these pieces. He's so into it. He calls them cools.
So rad.
Like he's just
Yeah.
so impressed with this and goes out in the backyard with his little digger and trying to find
Oh,
treasure. Like he's
yeah,
really so it's something that's inherent in us for sure to know this truth and the mystery of what's below our feet. I think is like you said. I
yeah,
always wanted to be an archaeologist, and I did too, um, but it wasn't for the right reasons of it. It was for the truth, and that's something that we shouldn't have to go to school and pay for to learn.
True.
So do you, without sharing too much personal information, when you own a collection like this, how are you passing this on to your son? Like, I know the crystal skulls get passed within a family.
I don't even know if they're going to come take them tomorrow. Like to be honest with you,
Mm,
I haven't put any thought towards that.
yeah,
I got more pieces than I know what to do with. Just moved. I just moved, and it was
yeah,
10 ton of objects to move. It literally destroyed me for a full month. So the encumbrance of paying, $800 a month for storage and having all these pieces all over the place,
yeah.
and what to do with them, and the responsibility here. It's I don't even know. I don't know if they'll all get donated to a museum at some. I really don't know. I don't need this many pieces. They've more than done what I needed them to do. But at
I
this
can't
point, like
help myself.
I can't just go really sell them either. Like I sell
Yeah,
some pieces on eBay, but I take flack for it all the time. I don't want to be a artifact trafficker. I'm not trying to do that.
right.
Sometimes research needs to be done. I need money, whatever.
Yeah,
But at the same point, what do you do with a collection like this is a great question because I have no idea. My Dave's idea with the museum seemed like a
yeah,
great
Mm-hmm.
passion, but to operate a museum and to maintain a profitable
Yeah.
ability without destroying the truth itself in the process requires extensive knowledge about something I'm novice at best. So
maybe you
I don't
need
know
to
if that's going to be a good thing. I don't know.
call yourself a
Mm-hmm.
church.
That's funny you say that, but I think there's real plausibility that it might
Mhm,
go that direction, because it actually does connect on that level, and it might
mhm.
protect these objects in a way that
Mm-hmm.
might be the best for them. I don't know.
Our friend who's missing, Amber, in Maui, they have their, it's I don't remember. It's like a 401c or something, but it's not. It's a different series of numbers, and they were able to. It's complicated, but she got the paperwork filled out correctly, and they're now a church.
Yeah,
And
it is. It is challenging. I've looked into
yeah,
it. Yeah.
so they can. practice on the I don't want to say it the wrong way. Um, on the mushroom level,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe you could maybe if you want to talk to somebody that went through it, Amber's a
Yeah.
beautiful
That'd be
person
cool.
who would totally share the information with you.
I think it would
Um,
be smart at the minimum, even if I
mhm,
don't bring it to a public level of,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
but it
you
would
have to
protect
some
you.
degree in order to get it. So you have to have
Yeah,
like a ministry of some form where
you can
you're,
have a Zoom.
yeah, no, I'm sure we could make it happen.
Yeah, you can have, but it would protect you and protect your pieces and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the reason behind you being a collector, and like that would be that might I mean
Yeah.
that might be a
No, I
smart
think I
idea.
think that even over a trust and everything else offshore,
Hmm.
we found that the religion might be the best bet, honestly,
Yeah.
of everything. Or donating them to Native Americans and letting them take care of them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We have a direct connection to a beautiful Hopi tribe, and then their whole family that was just at one of our conferences. So if you ever want to speak to somebody,
I do. I would love
okay,
that more
yeah,
than a lot because
beautiful
it
man.
really they know. I mean, I've got pieces that it's too similar not to have a sit down with at some point with
Yeah,
people that
Mm-hmm.
have oral traditions that can probably make hide nor hair of certain things that are being
yeah.
depicted on these pieces that might not make sense to us, you know?
That's cool. My son was calling him uncle the whole time, but they did an opening ceremony on Friday night, and he brought his grandkids, and they did a whole dance for us, and they drummed on stage, and then they set up as
Nice.
vendors, and the most approachable, wonderful, funny, down to earth, easygoing people. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you want, I'll get you the connection there.
That'd be great.
Okay. Oop, we got a
There's a
dove
dove.
flyby. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
The
missed the chair,
return.
buddy.
Yeah,
It's the
that's the
return of the
signal.
dove. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's our we're at 2 hours and 7 minutes, and
What are the odds? Yeah.
yeah, you need to be. Oh, and he's gonna croon too because we needed that. Um, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you
for the
guys.
what
Yeah.
a
Also, guys, he has very cool merch on his
yes.
website.
Yes.
Check that out.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it's been fun. There's like 200 shirts on there now that I put because I have all these books with all these pictures of the artifacts that I've taken in macro. So they're actual. Most of them are pictures of the artifacts and have all the details very visible. They're all direct to garment, really high quality shirts and stuff that you can really make out the details. That was the one thing
Mhm.
I didn't want screen print and stuff that was going to look
Mhm.
crappy after a couple washes. Like I wanted them to
Yeah.
stay visible to where you could see the artifacts.
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, that makes me so mad when I have a shirt with the East Island head and he's wearing headphones. Love that shirt, and it's starting to yeah, I'm so careful with it too. Okay,
Yeah,
very cool. Then there's a great chance that we might see you next week if you want to come back with Dave.
yeah,
That would
absolutely.
be so fun, and I'll just
Mhm.
put tape over my mouth, and then you guys can have the
Yeah, and
have it.
and what's cool too is we can talk. I'll talk with him more if he wants to do this.
Yeah,
But we're going to do like a book signing for. I've got two books that I'm working on simultaneously. One's the Book of
yeah.
Enoch that has commentary and the alien carvings illustrations. So I'm going to do commentary and put the pictures of the artifacts that fit with the chapters to where you can see illustrations of what this book is really about and how this relates to that. And then
Yeah.
I went and shot in Texas about a month and a half ago for Forbidden Relics Volume 2. And I've got a collection down there with a business partner. And there's over 300 pieces down there that we documented and did a full shoot on. So should be really cool. But we're going to do a signing at Dave's museum. So we'll hopefully have more details about that next week
Yeah.
Awesome.
if we
What
can
part
round
of
them up.
Texas?
Austin.
Cool. Yeah,
It
I'm
was cool.
about
I
maybe
like
like an
that.
hour and a half from Austin. Hour and
Right
40
on.
minutes.
Yeah.
We
No,
have,
I
we can, connect you with some people who would make you feel so welcome, including Shannon, who would make you feel so welcome, and,
Yes.
we have a really
Jan.
yeah, and Jan, we have a really cool group of people there.
right
So,
on.
you
Yeah.
already are doing your own thing, but, please remind
I'll be
me
back.
to connect,
They
yeah.
just changed the laws on cannabis down there though. So I was a good, happy guy eating some good food. But now if I went back there, I'd be like looking over my shoulder or something. So I hopefully they'll get that figured out and then we'll get back there. But man,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. All
You
right.
can
Well,
become a
looks like
criminal just from crossing a border, you know? It's crazy.
it's like the whole COVID thing when you would have to wear a mask when you walk in, but when you sit down, you could take it off because COVID clearly doesn't show up at the actual table.
Hmm.
Like it's that dumb. Um, okay. Well, cool. Then we're gonna sign off. My doves, they're really trying to be part of this live. Um, we're gonna sign off now. Uh, Michael, you'll still be backstage with us for a moment, and we can
Okay.
share some information. And then, wow, everyone who joined us for the first time, thank you, thank you, thank you. We created this space for people to be able to talk about the things that they probably can't talk about to anybody else in their life. Like I know all of my closest friends are thousands of miles away, and I'm so grateful that I can still feel the love and energy as I reach out to all these different states. So I'm hoping that this this place, this little Friday Night Live, makes you feel more connected and you find your tribe here and you make friends. We've had a lot of people make friends in the chat. So please, you're
Cool.
welcome. Come back, especially next week. Um,
Yeah, we'll do it up.
and then the following week, I have somebody coming in from Buenos Aires, which is really cool too. Maybe we'll
Oh.
find out. I'll ask them. Um, you got the lowdown on some artifacts or anything down
Yeah,
there?
no, I do. The taxi drivers, Uber drivers,
Yeah.
anyone down there, we've questioned, just trying to figure out. Someone's got to know,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's all the same story, all of them, everywhere. It's all the same, and they all like either they're just completely that those don't exist, that's
Hmm.
not real, or they know, but
They
it's
really
never,
know. Yeah.
never. Yeah,
Fear is a huge inhibitor, but it's also an amazing thing to break through and push past, and
yeah.
and then you realize who you are. So okay, thank you everyone, new and already part of our group. Everyone here is welcome, and we certainly appreciate your support. So like and subscribe and all that stuff that you're supposed to say, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank
Till
you.
next time. Likewise.
Yeah,
See you guys.
yeah.